Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head over to America once again, and this is yet another of the beers that I brought back with me from my recent trip over to the US for my friend's wedding. So for this one we're going to return to the state of Iowa, and we're going back to a brewery that you will have seen me review 2 or 3 different beers from now, and this is the second of the 2 that I was able to bring back from this brewery. So for this one we're going to go to Decorah in the northeastern part of Iowa, and we're having a taste of another beer from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company, and this one is known as being a little bit of a beast. This is the King Sue, a double IPA coming in at 8% ABV. Now at this point in time when this review publishes, you will have seen my brewery visit video that I did when I visited Toppling Goliath, and this is where I bought this can incidentally. It was really nice to go and visit the brewery, and I do hope that I can do more of these videos for you over the coming weeks, months, years, whatever, for the channel. But I tried this beer on tap in that video and it was really quite nice, so I'm very curious to see how this one turns out in the can, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. I'm really curious to see how this one turns out in the can, to be honest. But as is usual with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Toppling Goliath before. Hopefully I can add some more in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the American beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Toppling Goliath once again, before we open up the beer. So Toppling Goliath Brewery was founded by Clark and Barb Louie back in 2009, and at the moment they're based in Decorah in Iowa, which is kind of in the northeastern corner of the state. But Clark had apparently been involved in the beverage industry with his family's company for around 28 years before he started the brewery, and prior to that he'd done a tour with the US Air Force, and he did a few other kind of jobs in there as well. But he used to have to drive an hour over to Wisconsin to get craft beer, and he just decided that he was sick of this and that he would start his own brewery to avoid having to do that long drive. But he's also a lover of wine, and he used to make his own wine as well, and he toyed with the idea of a brew pub for many years, but he later started homebrewing with his wife Barb, and this was him just kind of hooked on the idea of starting up his own fully commercial brewery, if you like. But he started making IPAs, but then he developed a lager which was called Dorothy's New World Lager, which went down very well with his brothers, who apparently weren't very keen on the big kind of hop forward beers that he was brewing before. But soon after he started the company, he hired Mark Sabo as his brewmaster, and he had a considerable chemistry and biology background, and over the last few years the brewery's become known for IPAs and things like that. They've really built up their reputation when it comes to IPAs, particularly both the New England style and also the West Coast style of IPAs. Actually, there was a good mix of them there when I visited the brewery. But there has been a little bit of controversy surrounding the company in recent times in terms of treatment of staff, a couple of lawsuits and things like that, and disputes. There's a bit of bad press surrounding this brewery in recent times if you Google them. But from what I gather, Mark Sabo has returned to the company, and it seems that things have picked up for them, if you like, so that kind of bad chapter of their history seems to be behind them a little bit now. But today they have they've got a large tap room at the brewery, 20 taps at any one time. It's a very impressive facility actually, and they offer brewery tours as well. It's pretty much, if you go to Decorah, and I showed you this in the brewery visit video, it's pretty much in the middle of nowhere. There's a couple of houses and a few other businesses right next to this brewery, but other than that, the whole state of Iowa is pretty much flat with different farmhouses popped around there. But really, there is not a lot kind of surrounding this town, to be honest with you. It really is quite crazy, to be honest. But people apparently drive for a good hour or so to actually reach this brewery. They have a few drinks and then they drive back and they think nothing of it. It's one of the dangerous things in America actually, particularly in the Midwest states. But these guys are producing well over 100,000 litres of beer per year, 100,000 barrels of beer per year, my apologies, and they've produced something in the region of 80 different varieties since their inception. But they're one of the very well regarded American craft breweries, and probably, it's fair to say, the best known known craft brewery in Iowa at the moment. So yeah, if you get the chance to try some of their beers, I do recommend you have a look at them. I tried the Pompeii IPA, the Pseudo Sue, but this is the one that apparently really put them on the map. But yeah, that's all you really need to know about Toppling Goliath Brewery for the moment. Again, you can check out my the brewery website and stuff in the description below. You can check out my other reviews I've done from them, and you can also check out the brewery visit video that will have aired now as well. But yeah, that's all you need to know about the brewery. We'll get on to the actual tasting of this beer. So like I mentioned to you at the start of the video, this one is an 8.5% double IPA. It's a New England IPA, I can tell you that from having tried the beer in the tasting video before, but it comes in with only Citra in it actually. It's a single hop Citra beer, this one, and it's intended to show off what they call the king of hops. But yeah, really nicely presented, this one. You can see the dinosaur, the Pseudo Sue is very similar to this one. That's the kind of little sister or whatever paleo type beer. But this one is a 1 pint can, so it says 16 fluid ounces here. In real people measurements, that is 473 millilitres. There you can see Toppling Goliath on the can there, just letting the camera focus on that. But yeah, really nicely presented can, this one. I do like the artwork on this. It says this lusciously hazy double IPA gains its bold flavours of mango, orange and pineapple from the use of the delicious Citra hop. All hail the king. So yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting, and I'm curious to see how this one turns out in the can. I mean, it's interesting that they say you get orange from Citra. Personally, I've always found that Citra just gives a really nice straight up mango, but it's got a nice few complexities such as like lychee and lemon lime and things, sometimes gooseberries as well. But yeah, this is actually paler than I remember it being as well. So as you can see with this beer, it's poured a really nice pale, that's more of a yellow colour than anything else. If I hold this up to the light, this is really one of the more kind of fruit juicy looking New England style IPAs that you're going to come across. You can see that there's a solid finger of a frothy, I would say cream, slightly fawny, yeah, more cream coloured head on this one, to be honest, not so much fawn. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, and quite a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head there. But you know, overall it looks pretty much as you would expect from a New England IPA. This is a lovely, lovely looking beer, but definitely more hazy and more kind of yellow in colour than I remember it being in the brewery. I do remember it being just a little bit brighter and yellow and more, even slightly more orangey, to be honest with you, when I tried it at the brewery itself. But yeah, this one, you could mistake this for being pineapple juice or something like that. If I stick my fingers behind the glass, look, you can see there is pretty much no light getting through this one at all. Very, very impressive in terms of the haziness out of this beer. So yeah, let's take a closer look at that aroma then and just see how we get on. Oh yeah, so straight away, for me, a lot of mango coming out of this one. I would say it's got a little bit more of a complexity to it than that. I'd say somewhere along the lines of like papaya, maybe apricots and things like that in there as well. It's not sharp enough to be peaches. I'd say mangoes, papayas and apricots coming out of this beer. I've always found Citra to be a very straight up mango hop in terms of both its flavour and its aroma, and that really comes out for me in this one. But it has a hell of a lot of complexity to it, this beer too. So like I mentioned, you get papayas, maybe a little bit of apricot in there. You can pick out a little bit of the lychee, gooseberry type complexities that also come out from Citra in this beer. On the back end of the aroma, you can really pick that out. It's almost like at the front of your nose, it just has this very sweet, juicy, almost lychee aroma to it. But the rest of the beer is fairly juicy mangoes rather than anything else. But the aroma of that is really nice. The fruity hops come out absolutely beautifully in this one. One of the things is, I got this can, I think it had only been canned the day before or something like that, and you know, when it's a West Coast IPA you want to drink it as fresh as you can, but when it comes to these New England ones, I have to admit, if you leave them for like 2-3 weeks, you're going to get a lot more out of these, because you want the juicy side of the fruits to come out in them a little bit more. And I've got a feeling that I will have had this, I think this will have been in the can for about 3 weeks just now, and just going by the aroma and the juiciness that's coming out of the fruits, I think we might just be catching this beer around its kind of prime time actually. So I'm very excited just to see how this one turns out in the tasting section, because the way the fruits are coming across in the aroma is absolutely beautiful, I have to say. So yeah, in terms of the green side of the hops, I would say that this beer I mean, there is a little bit of the floral quality in there. You can pick up a little bit of that floral aromaticity that you'll always get from Citra, but it's leaning a little bit more towards the grassy side of things for me. It's if you take it in a little bit more deeply, you'll get the stronger sort of floral aromaticity, but if you just take a little kind of whiff of it, a little waft of it like this, you'll get the more kind of grassy, fruity notes out of it. So it's a really interesting combination coming out of this beer, in fact. On the malty side of things, rather, this one to me comes across as being very creamy, a lot of nice creamy oats in this beer, a little bit of biscuity sweetness as well, and you can really detect some of the nice wheaty smoothness in there, but this comes across to me as being a little bit more, I don't think it's quite lactosey, it's quite a creamy oaty quality that's coming out of this beer, and also just that little bit of biscuity sweetness with some wheat in the background. So yeah, I think we're catching this beer at a very, very good time. So as I always say, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. But we're going to have a taste of this one now and just see how we get on. So this one is the King Sue, a double IPA at 8.5%, simply with Citra hops, from Toppling Goliath Brewery in Decorah, not sure exactly how to pronounce it, in the northeast corner of Iowa, over in the US. Let's get stuck into this one. Sláinte Skål. Yeah, let's just say we've caught this beer absolutely at the prime. This one really hits the spot, and this is one of the things that I think is a bit dangerous about the New England IPA. You know, this beer is 8.5%. That is ridiculously drinkable for a beer that's that ABV. Now, I've said it, I mean, we've got a few breweries over here in Sweden that are very good at this style, and I've always said that when you get to around the 8%, 8.5% mark, it's quite difficult to cover the alcohol beyond that without adding a little bit of caramel or biscuit malt or something like that. This beer doesn't taste like it really has any of those in it. It basically tastes like it's straight up wheat and oats, to be honest. And it's ridiculously easy to drink, this one. You could easily down a few of these. And it's one of the things that scares me a little bit about America, is that you think when you're driving along some of these country roads, you know, a good number of the people driving around will have maybe had a few beers. Because they have to drive everywhere in America, and if they've had a good few of these, you know, it will knock you out after one or two. I'm not used to driving and doing this, but maybe the Americans are a little bit more useful to that. I really hope though, because, you know, if you're going to drive, do not drink, especially something like this. But yeah, this is a ridiculously creamy, fresh New England IPA. As I said, I think I've just caught this in its real prime, to be honest. A really awesome beer. I was impressed with it when it was on tap as well. So let's just try and break this one down a little bit then. So you can feel the sort of pale malty base just blanket in the middle of your tongue. On top of that, you can feel that the further you go into the flavour, it thickens out a little bit and you start to get some of the kind of smoother, thicker, white bready, wheaty notes out of the beer. More into the centre of the palate, you can pick out some of the oaty creaminess, and then in the very centre of the tongue, you've got a little bit of a biscuity or a cookie, I guess, if we're using the American vernacular or vocabulary, we should say cookie in this one. It does have a little bit of that almost biscuity sweetness to it, like McVitie's Digestives. It's got a little bit of that kind of going on in the centre of the palate. It's actually really quite sweet in the very centre, and then as you move further out from the tongue, the middle of the tongue, it's got a little bit of that more biscuity sweetness as well. So I really like how everything's going together in this one. It's got a really nice, the malt base of this beer is very nicely done, and this is kind of what a European would expect of a New England IPA. They've done this really, really very well, actually. So big thumbs up to Toppling Goliath for this one. You can see, actually, if this is their kind of flagship beer, you can see why they were able to build a very good reputation on this beer. And oddly enough, when I think about this one, it reminds me actually of a beer called Raw Power from Abeltoft Gård Brewery over in Denmark, in the Kattegat area. And I do wonder if the brewer that worked there, I don't know his name, he was an American guy, I wonder if he actually worked for Toppling Goliath at the time, because that beer, Raw Power, is very, very similar to this actually, but just a little bit lower in terms of its alcohol content. If you're watching from Denmark and Sweden, if you manage to try Abeltoft Raw Power, this beer is very, very similar to that one actually, but I think a little bit, this one's a bit higher in its alcohol content. You've got a lovely, nice and smooth and slightly sweet malt base with this one. If you like your IPAs to lean, your New England IPAs to lean towards the slightly creamy, oaty side of things, this is one that is going to tick a lot of the boxes for you. On the hoppy side of this beer, back corners of the palate, there's a little teensy bit of earthiness in there. As you come further forward along the sides of the tongue, you can feel this beer just gradually becoming more floral and aromatic. It's not spicy or anything, but it does have a little bit of that more floral aromatic quality to it the further you come forward. Round the very front curve of the palate, you've got a bit of that lighter kind of grassy sort of thing. Again, there's nothing surprising about this beer if you know the Citra hop quite well. The green side of the hops come out pretty much exactly as you would expect them to. And I don't think this beer is using Columbus or anything like that as a bittering hop. This one is 100% Citra, as far as I can tell. So, as I always say, the fruity side of the beer comes out in that little oily bubble that you get behind the very front curve of your tongue, and this one's giving you all the kind of classic signs of Citra, which is great. It's a hop that I really, really enjoy. Yeah. So for me, this one, if you go to the very back of that oily bubble, behind the front curve of the tongue, you can pick out that there's a little bit, there's just a teensy little bit of grapefruit in there. You can pick out those slightly darker tropical fruit esters. As you come forward from that, it's all about the mangoes. You know, it's a really mango-y flavour that's coming out of this beer. There's a little bit of a kind of papaya, apricot-y type thing as you come forward from that. And it's one of the interesting things. Citra is a hop that I've had it so much over the last few years when I've been reviewing beers on the channel. But when you try single Citra hop beers like this, you really start to learn a little bit more about the complexities of them, because I've always found Citra, a little bit of grapefruit, mainly mangoes, and then you've got some of these tropical fruit complexities. But the more and more that I drink of this hop, I start to find that it's got a bit more kind of papaya or apricot-y kind of flavour to it towards the front of the palate, and that really comes out quite nicely in this beer. So like I say, very back of that fruity side of the beer, a little touch of grapefruit in there, maybe more passion fruit than grapefruit, to be honest. It's not quite as dark as grapefruit, so a sort of passion fruity, dark tropical thing, more leaning towards the mangoes, and then you've got some papaya, apricot-y type flavours there. And if you go right to the very tip of your tongue, that's when you start to get the sort of lychee, gooseberry esters coming out of this beer as well. So I mean, this is one of these beers that, if you go back, you know, 3 or 4 years, which I'm assuming is when this beer would have come out, or maybe even a little bit before that, but if you go back a couple of years, this is one of the beers that you can see would just blow people's minds. It's a very, very good quality New England IPA. These days, it's a little bit old school because, you know, the Citra hop is one that everyone is familiar with, but even at that, you can say it's very, very well crafted, and I've really enjoyed reviewing this one for you. It's reminded me of the Abeltoft Raw Power, which is one of the best Danish beers that I've ever reviewed for you on the channel. So it's cool I always like this when you get beers from the other side of the world where styles originate, and you can compare them to some of the beers that you've had here too. But this is, to put this bluntly, it's a beautiful double IPA, this one, and I can see exactly why this would, you know, build a good reputation for Toppling Goliath. It's a huge thumbs up from me, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink this again. It is a little bit dangerous at 8.5% because you could easily tan a few of these down and think nothing of it, and it would hit you later on as soon as you go outside. So yeah, big thumbs up to Toppling Goliath for this one. This is a classic New England IPA, and from what I gather, this is one of the breweries that are very, very well regarded in the Midwest America. So yeah. And I just think very, very lucky with this one that I seem to have caught it right in its prime, and it was great to visit the brewery as well. So yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel then, I would say that this beer is at the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation's very, very smooth. It leans towards the creamy side of things, but at the same time it's quite a thick creaminess that this beer has, maybe even slightly oily in that regard as well. But most certainly at the top end of mid-bodied for me. On the hoppy side of things, I think there's a little bit of bitterness to this, but I think you'd be lucky if you get about 30 IBUs out of this beer, to be honest. It's maybe around the kind of 25 mark rather than 30. But a lovely balance between smoothness and sweetness and creaminess, actually, in the malt base as well. Really, the malt base just comes across as being very, very smooth and very creamy rather than anything else, and you've got some lovely juicy but also quite thick fruity qualities to this beer as well. It's very, very well balanced, and in this kind of day and age of New England IPAs, this is one of the ones that will strike you as being a little bit old school, and it's strange to say that because this style's only been around for about 2 years, but it's one of these ones that will strike you as being a little bit old school, but it really shows off the Citra hop absolutely beautifully, and that was the aim when they produced this beer a couple of years back, actually. So, you know, huge thumbs up to Toppling Goliath for this one. This is a bit of a classic American New England IPA from what I gather, so if you get the chance to try this, I highly recommend that you do, and if you can get it fresh enough, you're certainly not going to be disappointed with this one. So let's just leave it at that. This is the King Sue, a double New England IPA coming in at 8.5% ABV, single hop with Citra, and it's an absolutely beautiful beer, this one, so big thumbs up to the guys at Toppling Goliath for this. If you get the chance to go out and visit the brewery, it is kind of in the middle of nowhere. You have to go out of your way a little bit to get there, but if you can find somewhere to stay in the local area, why the hell not? They do some really good beers, I would say. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Toppling Goliath as well. And hopefully I can return to these guys in the fairly near future and review a few more different beers for you. But until then, check out the brewery website in the description below, follow them on Facebook and Instagram and stuff like that, check out my social media as well, and just try some of these beers, because I think this is probably the best known brewery that you're going to find from the state of Iowa as well. So yeah, let's leave it at that. Thanks again for watching, and we'll catch you guys very soon. The King Sue from Toppling Goliath Brewing Company in Decorah in the northeastern part of Iowa in the Midwest in America. Until the next time, slàinte just now, and I'll catch you guys later. Slàinte, skull, try this beer, it's awesome.